In this episode, I'm sitting back down with Christian Reichert. In case you didn't know, Christian served 8 years of a 23-year sentence for a nonviolent cannabis offense in the state of Illinois, which supposedly legalized cannabis. You can see the first episode that he was on, which includes what it was like to be arrested and go into prison and so much more at thecolememo.com/is it legal. I'm always asking myself, is it legal if people are still going to jail for nonviolent cannabis offenses? And his story isn't the only one, but like I said, before you check out this episode, I would highly encourage checking out the first episode with Christian Reichert. And of course, while you're there, check out the other unfortunate stories I've gathered so far. Enjoy this episode of The Cole Memo. Hello and welcome. This is the Cole Memo. I'm your host, Cole Preston. Every episode is released in audio, video, and transcript format. To find the transcript, audio, or video version of any episode, please refer to the description of the episode that you're listening to now. Within that description, you can find a link that will take you to our website, which will display the transcript for this episode and the platforms where you can find this episode in audio or video formats. If you're unable to locate the episode description on whichever platform you're listening from, simply take note of the episode number and visit thecolememo.com. From there, you can find the corresponding episode, and then you'll be able to access the audio, video, and transcript version of that episode. You can even take advantage of our new search functionality. It's awesome. It works well. You might also find any links that we reference during the episode so that you might be able to do your own research. If you're not listening to this episode of The Cole Memo on Patreon, then you're listening to this episode later than our patrons. To become a patron, go to thecolememo.com/Patreon. It's a great way to support our show. Our show is funded by listeners like you. It costs a lot to do this show between the equipment, hosting fees, and everything else. So if you're able to support our show, one way to do it is at thecolememo.com/support. You can make a contribution of your choice, one time, monthly, or yearly. You could give $1 a month, whatever you choose. If you're not able to support us financially, though, that's totally okay. One of the best ways to support our show is free. Subscribe to or follow the show. Leave a positive review from wherever you're listening to this episode. Favorite this episode. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment or share it with your best friend. Today is April 11th. 2024. And I just want to remind you folks that the criminalization of cannabis, continues to this day. I've been collecting stories at colememo.com/is it legal, because I'm always wondering if people are getting arrested in a state that says they legalized cannabis. Well, is it legal? And I just saw a story actually before we hopped on air that somebody shared on Reddit. But before we get into that, I want to welcome my guests. Philip, welcome back to the show. How's it going, dude?
Hello, it's going good.
And Christian Reichert, what's going on, man?
How's it going? How's it going, man? How you guys doing?
Great. It's good to sit back down with you. I'll just read the headline just to, underscore the point. Is it legal? Ogle County deputies seize $200,000 worth of cannabis in a raid. Why are they even messing with cannabis? Please focus on crimes that are actually impacting, people. Anyways, Christian, welcome back to the show. How's it been since the last time we've talked? It's been a month, right? About.
Yeah, it's been a month, man. I first I just want to say thanks for having me back. Um, yeah, it's been going good. Still getting the hang of everything. It's quite overwhelming sometimes. You know what I mean? But you just put your game face on, get up in the morning, go to work. Come home and do it all over again every day. And it wasn't really that I did that. Before I was incarcerated for the cannabis, but working has never been a problem for me. I've worked since I was 16 years old, at least, and then I was mowing, probably yards at 10, 11 years old. So, Working has never, been really the issue. But yeah, it's been great. I got to, you know, catch up with all my family, and spend some quality time with them. And it's still, there's just not enough time in the day, especially with me working now and, just trying to get everything back on track and, get my life organized again. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
What are some of the hard things? I mean, I imagine it's just the change of routine. I mean, I hate little changes. Like for example, I just started a new job, and within a week of starting the job, the boss that hired me, that like loved me and I loved her, she's like, "Hey, I'm not gonna be your boss anymore." And I'm like, "Fuck." But I was only there for a week. Like I got there, I got used to like it's like I didn't even know what it was like really with her, but for a week. And anyways, I'm just trying to underscore that simple change can be hard. You went through radical change. So is that what it is? Or like what's tough about, like
Well, to give you the honest example, like I've already been pulled over once.
damn.
Yeah, I got pulled over for tinted windows, right? And and he was all right, no, nothing. He gave me a warning, and basically gave me the rules about the tinted windows and stuff, because Illinois is not really they're not really a tint window tinting friendly state, I guess you could say, but I think they've gotten a little bit more lenient about it. But yeah, so I got pulled over. That was just like literally last Friday. Like I was on my way to get a paycheck after I got off work, and sure enough, and I just knew it, dude. I'm like, I passed him. He's like on a little side street, and I was just like, man, if he pulls out behind me, I already know it's gonna, you know what I mean, how it's gonna go. So yeah, I got pulled over, but it was, it was cool. He let me go. I went and got my check, and I was much happier after that. It didn't ruin my day in the least. But then it's funny because then I go to the gym the other day, and of course, I see a familiar face that was above me, I guess you could say, my authoritative figures that worked at a previous prison that I was out.
Oh, damn.
So I'm in a gym, and he was super cool. He's like, man, I'm glad to see you're doing good. You're out, you're working. And so, which, you have to be careful with stuff like that because you're not supposed to be in contact with them. But as long as you're not like approaching them like, hey, smuggle these drugs into so and so in there, that's my guy. Look out for him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
as long as you're not like, but they do have to report that type of stuff. Like, if they run into you in public and stuff, they have to, let it be known to their superior officials. So yeah, I was in the gym working out, and he come in. And I'm like, just kind of threw him the heads up, and and just kept it moving. We just kept it short. I told him I'd been out for a couple months now, and and it feels good. I was telling him it's like it feels good. I was like, but just little stuff like that. You're just especially in an area where you're so well known, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like in this small area. Like, I mean, I think the population in my town where I was arrested was probably about 30,000 people. You know what I mean? And it's not hard to become known amongst 30,000 people when you get, obviously busted with 50 pounds of cannabis in their, town. And but a lot of people have known me my whole life. You know what I mean? They know my heart. They know that, if I see you're in help, you need help or something, and you're on the side of the road and you need a tire fixed or whatever, like they know that I'm that type of person. Like anybody who knows me, but don't get me, confused for someone who doesn't have a backbone either. Like I'm not gonna let you walk on me. I'm not gonna let you take advantage of me, you know. But it got easier as I got older to be able to tell people no. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, my situation happened for a reason that I still don't know to this day. and might not know ever. Maybe the day that I go to the grave, who knows? You know what I'm saying? But I haven't, like, I've never needed any type of like medication or, like, because a lot of guys in there, man, are sedated, like
Mm,
heavily sedated. They just want to, they just want to numb it all. But I feel like that's kind of like defeating your purpose. But like just kind of applying, like I can say that like my mindset and everything and the way I think now, I can apply it greatly towards my way of life in society. And I think it's just motivated me to be successful and try to do different things, try different avenues, whether it be social media, podcast, stocks, like I just want to kind of like, I feel like the world, like they say, is my oyster,
yeah. Hell yeah.
So I just kind of want to like, but I'm still at the same time like one day at a time. Like I'm brainwashing myself. I feel like to tell myself that, like, because I had so long to think about things that I wanted to do when I got out, and you're almost like, which way do I go? You know what I mean? It's like, and so now that I'm out and like I've been out for a little bit of time, now that I'm looking, oh man, I've been out 2 months. I've done pretty good. I've accomplished some stuff, but maybe I need to focus on me right now and not so much of what I need to get done and what I need to do. Like I think I started realizing like it's going to take me 6 months, maybe a year even, to fully adjust and like, you know what I mean? Because that's like 7.5. That's like almost 8 years of, you
Yeah.
know, you're used to something totally, and you never get used to it. Really, you don't. I mean, I did. Some guys do though. Go. I'll definitely feel. I'll put that out there. Like you, you definitely have those that I guess maybe don't know anything else other than their lifestyles and they're
Right.
okay. And prison is like that safety net because I've met guys that have. The majority of guys that I've met had been on their third prison bit.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot, dude.
Right.
Their third prison bit.
Yeah. It's I have to imagine, because I obviously don't know the answer, that it's something like what I just saw portrayed. I just have to give, credit where credit is due to a very interesting story that was recently in the media. Channel 5, which is something you can watch on YouTube for free, did this story on the Las Vegas tunnels, people that lived in the tunnels. And you talk to these people and a lot of them want to get out, and that may be true, but some of them say they want to get out, but truly don't know another way of life. They've gotten out of the
Yeah.
system. They don't have a job. And in some ways that can feel freeing. You don't have to wake up at any certain time. And it's not to say that they wouldn't want to live a quote unquote better life, but sometimes you just like get caught in that cycle. So check that out.
Well,
But
it's like Shawshank Redemption, the guy that's in prison forever and he gets out and he just can't function in the world, so he kills himself.
yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
sad, but
And I was going to ask you, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to ask you, Christian. I know this is a personal question. If you don't have to answer it, but maybe just take it as a recommendation. Uh, I hope you're talking to somebody if you feel you need to, I guess. I've felt
And that
that.
is something I had thought about, recently, and even my friends, a friend of mine in Chicago, he told me, he's like, man, he's like, he's like, I talked to a therapist. He's like, dude, he's like, you will feel better once you do. And they give you, some advice and stuff like that or whatnot. So that is definitely something I'm considering. I don't, you know what I mean? I always thought like, oh, I don't need to, I don't
Right.
need, but no, I really do. I'm open minded to it. You know what I'm saying? So, um, but it's
well, I mean,
crazy.
more
Real
than a
quick,
handful of years, more than a handful of years in prison is bound to give you some form of PTSD, at least a little bit.
and Phil, it's funny you say that because like yesterday, I'm like, and sometimes I get caught off guard. I'm like, man, I am fucked up in the head, something decent. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, but in a good, like, it's not in a bad way or anything like that. It was just like, man, like, and it's kind of funny because the humor in there is dark, obviously, so there's never any, pleasant, side to that. And it's just a bunch of negative energy that you kind of just absorb over time. But real quick, what we were kind of talking about just a second ago before we got onto that, you said something too, Phil, but I ran into somebody, right, that I have grown up with for most of my life, like went to elementary and probably middle school with, something like that. And beautiful girl, right? It was, I should say. But I just ran into her today, and it was sad because the transformation, before I went to prison, I'd probably seen her on Facebook or social media, and seeing her earlier today, it was just kind of like, wow, like, and it's happening everywhere. It's not even the fact that, yeah, I went away for a while and I came home and I seen someone who used to be gorgeous, but obviously got on drugs and struggling. And, and it's just like, it's just so like, you just kind of, your hands are tied. Like you can't, and me and a friend were talking earlier though, not to like kind of bounce all over the place, but it's just like seeing her like that, it just it makes me want to do more for people. Like I could probably try to reach out to her right now and like get her the help that she might not want, what I mean? But at least I tried, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just sad, dude. Like, and then you got guys in prison for weed still, stuff like that. Like his life, his quality of life is about equal to her quality of life because they're both in prison. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter where they're at, but you have that power in your mind to kind of be free wherever you are. You know what I'm saying? Which is way easier said than done. You know what I mean? Because I tried to, meditate on that and always feel like, yeah, you might physically have me chained up, but you don't have my, my spirit, you don't have my energy or anything, so I'm still going to manifest it and I'm still going to send it out into the universe, whether, I'm paying for my crime or not, it is what it is, but the fact that that is a crime for something that grows in the ground, and I got more time than someone who molests or rapes a child, who then the child is destroyed for life, but that child molester can be back out on the streets again. Those are just things that, you obviously, once you get me started, I mean, I can't be quiet about it. It's like, it just aggravates the fuck out of me. And I apologize for that. I guess I shouldn't apologize, but for the
No,
language.
you shouldn't apologize. No.
Well, and it's insane too. Like people will think that like we're nitpicky for being like, no, cannabis is still illegal. People just think like, oh, of course, this person had 50 or 100 pounds of weed. They should be in jail for a handful of years. And it's like, yeah, but a handful of years is like what we send people to jail for like second-degree murder. Like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, maybe they just shouldn't be in jail at all.
Right.
And especially not like in with people that had murdered people, or like hardened. Someone that sells weed or traffics weed is not some like hardened criminal in most cases, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, so Brian, I don't know if I mentioned this last time when we were on Christian. I feel like I mentioned it with somebody else, a different sort of case, but Brian Peck was convicted of a lewd act against a child, oral copulation of a person under 16, and spent 16 months in prison. That person was Drake Bell from Nickelodeon's All That, The Amanda Show, and Drake and Josh. I mean, like, I know it's a different
16
state
months.
and everything, but
Yeah.
16 months.
What state does that say?
What?
I think that was
What?
probably California.
California, yeah, I think, but still,
That doesn't surprise. That does not. California to me is just like Illinois, though. You know what I mean?
right.
We are the two highest states in, damn near the country. California definitely being California and Florida and probably New York. Illinois is up there in the top 5. You know what I mean? As far as highest places highest taxes, I guess you could say. But that doesn't surprise me that in that state, you know, that he only got that much time, and
But I
that's
mean,
just,
it happens in Illinois too.
oh yeah,
Those types of sentences you get. Well, I mean, you talked about it. You said you
yeah,
spent time with some of
I,
those people.
yeah. I mean, and it's just it is crazy, but yeah, it's just not. I don't know. It's just like, where do you see it ever changing? Because it's almost like the legislators, the government. I mean, I don't know.
You know,
It's
Phil, the other day I was thinking about this. People tell me sometimes I'm radical and that I should stop saying that, cannabis legalization was a failure. Um, but and they say, Cole, just wait for federal legalization. But my thing is, all of these things, like that Christian got charged with, this new case that we just read about, all these things are state violations.
Right. Yeah.
I, I don't federal. So even if we reschedule, this is something you brought up, Christian. A lot of people say we should deschedule because then at least it takes away all of the federal criminal penalties. Because honestly, from what I understand, and Jordan Davidson brought this up once on my show, who is not for cannabis legalization, but he did make the point, and Justin Streckel, former political director at Normal, agreed that there are actually very few federal arrests for cannabis, and that's why when Joe Biden announced his pardon thing, there were very few pardons actually issued. Right, there were pardons that went through, and I think actually one of them is Chris Goldenstein. He's a activist on that you can follow on Twitter, and he was even invited to the Kamala Harris, uh, cannabis thing they did on rescheduling. I don't know if you guys heard about that. I can display a headline for it in a bit, but
I remember hearing about it,
the point
I
being,
just get,
though, again, it's all state infractions
yeah,
that people are getting charged with. So, like, we need to
yeah.
stop. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know my point, I guess. I mean,
I
I know
think,
my point. I'm just getting lost in it. So, anyways, Christian, go
well,
ahead.
the feds, okay, if you deschedule it and there's no federal penalty on it, I think that means something, because the feds and the government and the president, and all their,
Right.
administration basically were just like, here you go, states. You guys have the power now to handle these cases however you feel they need to be handled. Right. So that's why you don't see the feds picking up raids or going in, and more so on the weed side with the feds. Like, say if I own a dispensary, okay, then you have them monitoring your, amount and what, you keep in your establishment, how much you sell, because they want to make sure that you're not selling obviously any out the back door that's not being taxed, right? Which they're not taxing it, but I'm just saying, like, it's just basically money that's not being recorded, you know, because there's not a banking system for it. But if they deschedule it and they leave it up to the states pretty much have the authority to do what they just did to me still.
Right. I mean, you're right.
And
You're absolutely right. But if they, but you, it would be a case where, yeah, state law with, but that would be the thing. That's the kind of the case with everything else. You know what I mean? Like
and
with
it'll
abortion
always
right now,
it is and it'll always go back to, it's not what you know, but it's who you know.
bingo. Yeah.
Because when you are in the state situation, you obviously, if you don't have, a top notch lawyer or somebody that can represent you, because especially if you have a background, like, let's just say that I go, for instance, and get in trouble after I've been off parole and out for, let's just say, 10 years. Let's say I've been out for 10 years, and Lord, we don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now with the laws or anything, but hypothetically, um you know, I get busted again, right? I didn't learn my lesson the first time, and this time I'm growing 3 or 4 or 500 pounds, and I get caught with it, right? I just up the ante, on them. How do you feel they're going to use that against me? they're going to look at it like, well, he's been out for 10 years and he's probably been growing pot or selling or doing whatever with it. Are they going to use, obviously, they're going to use my background against me, which is the number one thing that Illinois will do is, use a criminal record to make you go away for as long as they want you to. But that's what I mean. So, like, if that's the case, but God forbid that ever did happen. But I'm just saying, like, how much time do you think I would get in the future? And it doesn't have to be 10 years. It could be a year, a couple of years now down the road. But I'm just saying, like, am I going to get another 20 years?
Well, I mean,
Am I going to get
if you have 50 pounds again, yeah, right now you will. And
exactly. If I'm not legit and I don't, own my own establishment legally, and I do get into trouble, I mean, yeah, I mean that's basically how they're going to handle it because that's how the system is. But the way I'm saying it is like, okay, you have it set up like that, and you do that because you don't want people making the money, the untaxed dollars. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's all it is. They want,
yeah,
Well, and they also want to be able to fine people and like civil asset forfeiture and all that stuff too.
absolutely.
So like
Steal
they
the
get to make
product.
money on both ends by collecting the tax revenue and all the licensing fees and all that stuff, and they get the criminal and they're like getting it
yeah, the best of both worlds.
right.
They
Yeah.
seize all their money and take all their boats and their cars and their
Bingo.
houses. If that's what they possess with that much marijuana, if they've been moving that much, but because it's not a hard thing to do. If you, are a cultivator, it's an easy business to be in. There's so much demand for it.
Yeah.
Well, and they set up a legal market that incentivizes the black market to keep going. So it's like
Yeah.
it's so sinister the way they've set this all up because it like is just feeding
Yeah.
off itself. It's gross.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because it's like now you got these huge companies, like the big ones, like, Cookies or whoever else, which I fuck with, Cookies. Like I, haven't been there to any of their locations yet, but not saying that I wouldn't stop in one. But they are, possessing the game right now. So now that it is legal and people that are doing it legally, because I feel like it's not that hard to do it legally. Like now that I've done the research and the study that I have done, in prison, because that's always something like I started to kind of gravitate towards was like opening my own, legitimate like cultivation site or dispensary or even a smoke lounge, just anything where people were kind of enjoying, the flower and stuff. But now they can go like the Cookies and then like go to these events and can just set up booths.
Yeah, and
You
they're
know what I
taking
mean?
advantage of the farm bill selling weed in states that don't even have legal weed. They're doing that too, which is I don't have any
So
problem with. I want to be clear.
what what is the difference to say that what makes you better than me though, or say that it doesn't have to sound like that, but
Yeah.
you go to an event and sell your weed, right, for a company, and I sit at my house and sell my weed.
So that's actually, I just did an April Fool's joke. I don't know if you saw it, but I said that I'm selling soda, and people are still like, I've gotten like actual investment pitches. I've gotten brand deals proposed. They say like, you want to expand the portfolio, Cole? Like this looks awesome. What else do you want to do? You want to work with us? And the joke though was if you go and try to buy my soda, is exactly your point, Christian. Like I say, hey, thank you. And I had to try to thank so many people because some people were like, hey, I don't have money now, but I'll buy your product later. I'm so excited to try it. It's like, gosh, I feel bad because like people actually want to support me and I'm doing a joke. But the joke is that it would be that easy as it stands today. If you bought a hemp license, you could sell THCA flower and soda, like I was jokingly saying, and vape, any cannabis product really, as long as you just make sure to make it compliant with the hemp act. And so that was the whole joke to your point, like and that's what's great about the hemp license right now is that there is no difference. In fact, when I interviewed the division manager of the Illinois Department of Agriculture. I said, David, if I got a hemp license, if I applied for a hemp license, when would I get it? He said, Cole, if you would have applied for it this morning, you would have been leaving with it by the end of this podcast, by the end of the
Wow.
afternoon. So, and I asked him, I think even in that episode, like, shouldn't we do it that way? And it's like, well, but that's not the way the law is written. And he's right on that. And the question is like, well, why not? Right, Phil? Why not? Why shouldn't
Yeah.
it be that way?
Yeah. I started.
And,
I started to heavily research it, and then I met an investor who I thought was pretty on board and interested in some of the ideas that I ran across him, and I'm just kind of still waiting. Like it's something I still want to do more research on. One of my best friends has actually been interested in it too, and he's in the real estate game right now, but he's looking for something else to get into. And me and him have been talking about it for years. Like I used to dream long before Illinois ever even legalized. And I'm drawing a blank right now. I know I could probably look it up. I can't remember what state Illinois was. What was it, like the 18th state or something? 17th? Or was it?
might
Yeah,
have
it
been the
was
11th. I don't know. I could be
11.
wrong.
It
I
was
could
it
be
was
wrong.
lower than it was low. It was, yeah, it was definitely lower. It was in the maybe the mid teens, if anything. But like me and him have been talking about it, and like obviously it would take some time, but I just know that eventually all 50 states are going to be legal, and it's going to be like kind of one of the things where you would see it on every corner, right or wrong.
Yeah.
If you think of a few things that are on every corner right now, you got liquor stores, you got gas stations, you got fast food restaurants, you know what I mean? Like it's going to be so revolutionized that it's going to be like McDonald's on every fucking corner,
Yeah.
in all 50 states. So like I think if people seen it the way that maybe we see it and see how lucrative it would be and bring money back to, our roads, schools mainly. Like, I mean, obviously Illinois has like one of the worst, like,
Well,
teaching, like, I can't remember what's the correct term, but it's like
you
the
basically
kids
just
are,
have to have a master's degree now to be a teacher. You don't even have to have gone to school for being a teacher, which like I don't like I know somebody that has become a teacher as a result of that, and I think they're probably a good teacher. They have their heart in it and everything. But
oh,
to your
no doubt.
point, but to your
No, no.
point though,
Yeah.
we have a shortage. But I
Yeah.
just wanted to say I think part of the problem is Christian is like that idea is nice, but I think what they found is that you can't, in order to tax cannabis and get a lot of tax dollars out of cannabis, you have to limit the number of people that can participate in it so that there's an artificially high product value. So that if you've got it taxed on a percentage basis, you can actually get a lot of taxes out of it. If the prices fall, well, then not
Mhm.
only does the vendor not get a good cut, but then yeah, you get a lower cut as the person that's taking the tax out of that transaction, right? So
Right.
I get your point, but I think they're trying to do that, but their approach of doing that is different than what we just for to put it simply, different than how we would
Well,
approach that, you know?
yeah. I mean, I don't think that it won't be relevant to alcohol though.
Yeah.
I think and there's a shitload of liquor stores in America. America
Yeah.
loves its
No,
liquor.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's
Who
this one dude said there's, 400 Starbucks in Illinois, and that's just Starbucks. We're not even talking about all the coffee shops, right? So that's just Starbucks. Phil, were you about to say something? Oh, sorry. Um, yeah, that's all I had to say. Sorry, I thought you were about to jump in, so I didn't want to keep droning on about coffee shops. Um,
No, go on about coffee shops.
so coffee shop no. Christian, I'm curious before we get back to your story, and I just want to say I'll try to edit it in closer in the podcast so that people that don't even know who the hell you are can go and listen to your first episode. I'll just say it again right now though. The first episode, I mentioned colememo.com/isitlegal. That also is the place where you can find our first conversation with Christian. And before we get back like into like the latest updates in your story, I had a question for you that I thought about that I didn't ask you last time, that I wanted to ask you. I'm just curious, did you ever get compassion from any of your guards or anybody else that you may not have expected to get compassion from? Like, did they know the details of your case and like, dude, like, what the fuck are you in here for?
Oh yeah, thousand percent. Countless, dude. I couldn't even tell you. Probably over 100. Like no bullshit.
Was it to
Like
the
any.
point where you're like, yeah, man, I like honestly, it's just salt in the wound at this point. Like,
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. I mean, and it still never stopped.
Sure.
Like it. But yeah, I did, dude. Like it was. They were just like, man. Even when I got found guilty of my trial, the guard was like, like whose trial was this? Was this even your trial? Because the trial really wasn't even about, wasn't even about me.
Your guard was like, man, I'm about to go home and spark up a blunt tonight.
Right. He's like, I'm about to go smoke some weed right now,
Yeah,
and Netflix and chill.
right.
But yeah, yeah, I definitely got compassion for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And I'm curious, you mentioned earlier some people would spend their time being sedated. What did they give you? Like what?
Oh, like Seroquel. They've got
That doesn't sound
one.
fun.
Seroquel is like, I don't even know. It's whatever. I mean, they knock people out. Let's just put it that way. And the other one's Rimron. Rimron's another one that you'll just be a zombie. You'll just go straight to bed. I mean, there's no fighting it. It's a tranquilizer.
Oh,
And then they got one for people that are kind of crazy, like Thorazine Shuffle, Thorazine, whatever Thorazine is. I couldn't even tell you what it is. It's a chemical though, for sure.
Like an
chlorprom
antipsychotic or something like that.
treats mental
Yeah,
health conditions like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. It regulates your
yeah,
mood. In addition,
yeah.
it can also help you relax before a procedure.
And I'm not
So
not to
is that like people who are in prison will be like, I'm depressed or I'm having trouble dealing with this, so then they just medicate them? Like
yeah.
that's a thing?
Oh,
I didn't know you
absolutely.
could like just like get drugs like that in
Well,
prison.
or
That's
is it like if you're or maybe if someone's like violent or something like that? I mean, I imagine there's people that have mental health issues that just wind up in prison as a result of those things too. But
They do like absolutely like so like not to mock it or anything like that. I mean, you have the guys that are like serious like you said, like they
yeah,
need it. You know what I mean? Like they absolutely like they're messed up outside the world, they're messed up inside jail. They need it outside and in. Then you got guys that aren't, that just do it to just to be, they'll just go and say I'm depressed, or anything like that. You can honestly, as bad as it might sound, it's easy to go to what they call the naked room, which is the suicide room, because you're going to be stripped down and they're going to put this big old turtle suit over you that's like a sandbag and it's like your blanket, but it's a weighted sandbag that goes down to your knees. So you can't tie anything around your neck or anything like that. It doesn't fold or anything. It's just to put on your body, keep you a little bit warmer. So you better hope it's not that cold. But like guys will like, hey, I'm gonna kill myself. It's one of two things. They wanna get out of their cell and get moved. So they'll go to that room for like 2 days, like 48 hours, something like that. And then they'll kick them out and they'll have a different cellmate. You know what I mean? They weren't vibing or something like that. Like that's how they play a little game. But or you'll go there and you'll be like, hey, I'm suicidal. I'm going to kill myself. I need meds. I need antidepressants. I need sleeping meds, stuff like that. And yeah, you know what I
this
mean.
I love that Jeffrey Epstein pops up with this, but is this the type of jacket?
Yes, yes, it is, dude.
Okay. This must have been what he was wearing or something,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
there's
So I
all
don't know
these articles.
if he was wearing that right after the guards checked him. I couldn't tell you how he killed himself.
No, the guards
Oh,
were
he
asleep,
was
bro.
murdered. He was definitely murdered.
Definitely murdered.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fact. But anyways, so yeah, I was just curious because you said that, and I didn't even know there was a concept of like you could get certain things. Like I figured the antipsychotic thing, right? Like if there's people causing issues, like attacking people, like I figured that, but I didn't know if like you were like, yo, I just don't like I feel anxious like all the time if they just like sedate you or I didn't know like what you know.
Yeah.
Because somebody
They're
like
pretty
me, I'd be like sober as shit, and I'd be like, "What can you give me to just give me some sort of like, dissociative effect?"
A nice
Oh,
Valium prescription.
Right?
yeah. There's ways. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's ways. There's non-narcotic things, in the system, that are, substituted, I guess you would say, for what we use out here in our day
Yeah.
to day, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you wanted to bring that other subject up yet or not. I
Yeah, yeah,
didn't.
no, absolutely. Yeah, I was just plugging really quick that yeah, the first episode you can check it
Since we
out.
were already kind of like, since we were already kind of borderline onto the
Hmm.
paraphernalia in jail, I guess.
Right. Oh, that subject. Well, before we get to that, or yeah, yeah, no, that's actually perfect. It's right along with what we were talking about. So yeah, there was this Reddit article, that basically was talking about like how you get weed in prison. And it was kind of misleading at first because like when I saw the picture, I was like, I thought it was somebody because it was on this subreddit that I like occasional that I follow. It's called Prison. And it's people in prison that post about being in prison. And
Yeah.
and there's some dudes like that straight up have like I meant to ask you this. Like some dudes have straight up cell phones and they're like cooking shit and they're fucking like they got TVs, they're like cooking shit. Like they basically have a fucking apartment and they're like, "Yo, what's up? Today like they're streaming from their prison cell. Have you seen anything like this?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've
Yeah?
seen them. Yeah, I've definitely seen them.
Wow. Like, do you got to be careful about like, because you don't want to be
Oh yeah.
streaming and then like one of your guards sees the shit and like, yo, I know what cell that is, you know?
Yeah, exactly. For real. And like that's how dumb some of them guys are in there. Like they don't even care.
Yeah.
And you're
He
gonna
was
get
posting
hit
outside of his window. I'm like, bro, I feel like I could figure out where you're at right now.
easily.
You know?
If the right person got a hold of that photo, he's done. His ass is grass.
Yeah.
Um, but it is funny because you when like obviously you're in there and if you have a cell phone, I mean you just one slip up and you get caught with that phone, you're gonna do it extra time. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know about some states, but I've heard in Illinois, like I've talked to other guys that have been caught with phones and they've given them like 3 or 4 extra years on top of whatever their sentence was already.
Yeah.
So that phone better really be worth it because 3 or 4 years of your life, you know what I'm
That's
saying?
crazy. I
Yeah.
didn't realize if I knew like phones were like contraband, like people smuggle them in and stuff like that, but I didn't realize that was how harsh the penalty is for having one. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, and one is because
They consider
it's
it like a public danger or something like that.
yeah, because I could easily look up, like, say, if you were a correctional officer and I knew your name, first name, last name, I'd just go straight to your Facebook and look up all your whatever. If you have it
Right.
public, maybe you don't. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and yeah, so that is definitely and like, and I'm not against like any type of like the shit's there for a reason. Like I get it. You know what I'm saying? I just think things in our government need to be modified. Obviously, sentence wise for cannabis is just ridiculous. And like I know they're saying like federally they're not indicting it. I don't feel like they're indicting much. I still feel like obviously you probably don't have any semis hardly nowadays coming across the borders loaded with illegal Mexican weed anymore. You know what I mean? Like, so you guys
No,
just need to
the
focus on
the last I heard, the weed is going the other way now.
exactly.
Well, and
Exactly.
what was is that? Are you referencing the story you sent me, Phil, from MJ Biz Daily about Border Patrols seizing? I don't think
Well, no,
that's not
that
the
was
same.
about like in state. I was just saying Mexico isn't like known for producing great
Oh,
cannabis. So
gotcha. I
like down
understand.
there,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want good stuff, like you're buying
So
like California
so
weed.
I don't know if you guys know much about and I'm probably gonna get off, into this a little bit, but you guys know who Randy Lanier is, from Freedom Grow organization out in California.
Yeah.
Um
Uh,
Sounds
is that the
familiar.
guy that like was a race driver or something, or
yes.
did he race
Yeah.
boats? Yeah.
Yeah. He raced Indy cars and but there's a funny story between me and him. And so the state's attorney that convicted me also convicted him.
Is it this
And,
guy?
yes, that's him. And Randy is about 70 years old, I think. Now, he's raced with the legends, the all the who's. And so the same prosecutor prosecuted him that prosecuted me. Only difference was he was prosecuted back in like 87 or 8, maybe, or 9. Somewhere it might say his story might be right there, but um he, however, um got 37 years for marijuana. And I or no, I think, matter of fact, I'm sorry, I think he had life
1987.
and did 20. Yeah, 1987, and did 27 years straight in the feds for 300 tons of marijuana.
Yeah. He was literally like one of the biggest smugglers.
Yeah. Well, I've been, on Instagram, me and him are in contact, and I just kind of he showed a lot of support. His organization and everything has, been very supportive of my, release and my coming home. Well, anyways, on the other side, he was, sentenced all that time, did all that in his time, did a lot of time, and I applaud him for that because, I look at my little like 7.5, 8 years, like, but his amount obviously was by God, ridiculously way more than mine, especially at a time in our life where, um, you know, the government, law enforcement did not tolerate it. Um, I don't think being his status and who he is now, if he was growing 300 tons of marijuana, I don't think, he would have a problem because you don't ever hear of people getting busted with 300 tons nowadays of marijuana unless it's a cartel or, some type of drug ring or syndicate. You know what I mean? It's all, for the most part, going legitimate,
Yeah.
for something that was black market pre 2014 for so many years,
Right. This is the story that we were referencing. This is from April 8th. Federal officials are suddenly seizing marijuana from state licensed businesses, leaving industry perplexed.
So they're
And
It's like the border patrol, like in like I think this was specifically like New Mexico.
correct. Yeah, New Mexico, they say are a relatively new phenomenon. So apparently adult use sales launched in 2022, and they've generally been able to transport their products to testing facilities and retailers without incident. Starting 2 months ago, however, the agency has evidently taken a more proactive approach to enforcing federal prohibition, taking hundreds of pounds of cannabis at the checkpoints inside the state. CBP is able to carry out its activities within 100 miles of the U.S. border. And it's just an interesting development. Um, there have been raids in California and stuff, but like you say, they're few and far between for the most part, from what I understand, and it just generally is people that are violating like prior
So
guidance.
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you simply just look up something right now, like largest marijuana seizures in 2024 so far, you know what I mean? Like, what states are gonna do you think you would find if you looked that up right now?
I don't know. I think Illinois would be in there because we get it all the time. Like we have like that one that I read earlier, but
We
probably like California and Michigan and states like that, Oklahoma, where, you know, and it's funny because I'm basically saying a talking point of some people that have come on my show in the past. They'll say this notion that Colorado and all these states that legalize first, the cartel moves in or these bad actors move in, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you can, especially if you're surrounded by states that are illegal, you can supply the demand, and hide under the cover of legality, so to say. And it's just like you would remove that incentive if everybody would just legalize it.
yeah, yep, exactly.
But back to just really quick, man, some of these stories from cannabis in prison. I'll show you this picture that misled me and I'll show you like what this thing looks like. It's like I said, a subreddit called Prison, and it's this post, and I was like, holy shit, this guy had this in prison, but he doesn't. He says, he was just posting it. He says, I love smoking large quantities of cannabis. How hard is it to get a hold of flower cannabis in US/UK prisons? And some of the comments were interesting. He said, in my experience, United States prisons, spices are a lot more available now than weed, which is what he said.
They, yeah, we talked. I think we did talk about that on the first episode, right?
Yeah, it comes through, but it stays in your system, so it's not really worth it with all the random UAs, which I didn't realize you had to take. Do you take drug tests at prison? That's what this
Oh
guy's
yeah,
saying.
I think yeah. I took one right before I got out. They even drug test you before you get out because if you fail a drug test in jail, they can keep you. I mean, there's no, you know what I'm saying? Like if you fail that drug test for anything in jail, they can stop you from getting out.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's like you're smuggling drugs in a penal institution,
yeah.
and they don't play about that either.
$12 for the tiniest pinch. Oh, sorry, Phil, were you saying something?
No, no, no.
Oh, sorry, I keep hearing. I don't know if my.
So real quick, Cole. So
Yeah,
like literally, the toothpaste caps that like the Colgate's, the small ones you just twist off.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Just pack one of those full of weed. That's like $70 worth of weed in jail.
Yeah, that's what I was
God.
basically about to say. And actually
Yeah,
somebody even said that they called it a cap. I didn't know what they meant by that. They
yeah,
were saying
yeah.
$5.
Yeah,
Now,
these MSOs should really move in and exploit the prison population.
Yeah,
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 um, and I will say the feds is the big boy. That's the big leagues. That's where all your, obviously your heavy hitters that are from El Chapo all the way to Larry Hoover to, all the big Meeches and stuff. So when you got people like that in organizations and stuff, they pretty much, not even saying, like, they run the facilities. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know what I mean? Like they I shouldn't say it like that, you know what I mean? And because I'm saying it like when you got drugs in an institution, there's going to be both sides of the fence on board. You know what I mean? There's always corruption somewhere. You know. Now I could go on a visit, but the reason I say like when you're in the feds you have access to more stuff. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of those guys have made more money. You know, so it's easier to get stuff in there because their money speaks volumes. And that's all it is. But I will say, like, I think that in the state penitentiary is what I'm trying to get at. The difference between the feds and the state. Feds is the big leagues. Like I said, if you are in the feds, like all the big dogs, like I just named, you're a who's who, I guess. The state is kind of the same way in a sense, but the treatment is different. It's shittier. It's like going from where the feds are considered like the Marriott, the state joints are like, in Illinois at least, are like shitty ass fucking crack motels. I mean, I can't compare it.
Well, I saw something recently. Aren't they tearing down that Stateville prison?
I think I saw
Which
that.
is like the big one up north, I think. They're like replacing that, I guess. Probably because it's like such terrible condition.
Yeah. There was one in Joliet.
That's the one, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is true. I did actually hear that too.
Governor Pritzker announced a plan last Friday. This was on March 20th, 2024, reported to close down and rebuild the Stateville Correctional Center. And
critical infrastructure needs at both facilities, meaning they're terrible. We can't even keep our jail population in them.
So, and I mean, again, to throw them under the bus if I must, but the prison I just got out of was in the middle of one of the worst hoods in probably the United States. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was right there in East St. Louis. However, the offenders that were there weren't on shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, not saying that they weren't, but they just, to get there, you're tucking your tail all the way. I mean, not like you're not gonna look like no bitch or by any means. You just want to get home to your family and shit, like just to keep it real. Like, I'm not trying to like, but to give it to you, like that prison that I was just in, you would think that it would be horrible because of the neighborhood that it's in the middle of. Like, I mean, there's bullet ricochet, like bullet casings on the rooftop. There's bullet grazings like on the building, like where like people had, I guess, drove by and they were in shootouts and shit. Like I don't even understand why they would have a prison there. It's a former high school that they converted to a prison.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was a high school back like the 90s. Like what the fuck? Like, okay, if it's not a high school anymore, like tear the bitch down. But they see the money. It's big business. It's all about the dollars.
Yeah. Well, and you would think because it was like a private prison. I know you said maybe like that community gave them some kind of tax break. Because prisons for like a small city can be like a pretty big like job creation thing.
Yeah. Well, and there's no air conditioning, so in the summertime, like I just spent my last summer there. I mean, it was hotter than fuck, dude.
They should create some jobs for some air conditioning workers to install some fucking air conditioning.
Well, dude, I mean, I'm talking like days that it's 96 degrees, 115 heat index. Like you're in a room with 28 other people, and you got one big fan, like one of them industrial fans, and you got it's hanging up in the corner of a room and it rotates, but you have to it's on me and you to rotate it. So like one night we would have it pointed this direction, then the next night it'd be pointed that direction, and the next night, just to be fair, yeah. And then I have a small desk fan that sits right up on my nightstand. But now you got guys in there that don't have no family and no support that are sweating bullets because that fan ain't on them tonight, and they don't have the money to go to commissary to buy a fan. Yeah. Which the state will issue a loan. They'll issue, but I swear, Cole, the fan that they issue was like this big.
Look at those.
And if you're any further from it than like how I am from here to my phone, you're not even gonna feel it. Like you gotta have it like on you, and a cold rag. That's all I can tell you is get a cold rag and try to fall asleep. But you talk about being in hell. It's hell, dude. It is.
I'm curious. I bet you they have like it's almost like the T. Like I remember back in the day, one time I was gonna say all the things I didn't grow up with and I forgot. So one of them is like kind of without the internet, without a cell phone, and I went to school. I didn't have air conditioning, so it was like prison. Sounds like. And but
The
Absolutely.
school you were at didn't have AC.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the summer, what was cool about it though is when it got real hot, we got out. You couldn't do that. But like we were able to, they wouldn't make you struggle through that. But I always remember like the teachers' lounge had a fucking air conditioner in it. And I'm sure, like, do you know, was there was there like I'm sure they had a fucking air conditioner. There's no way they didn't have an air conditioner. Like, did you ever
Where?
walk by? I don't know if you were just like walking
Like
by and a
the
door's open and you're
guard's
like, huh,
office or something
yeah,
like that,
yeah,
you
the
know.
guard's office. There's
No,
no,
none. No, I mean,
damn,
they had fans out in their like little city. They have areas where where their patrol bubbles are and stuff like that.
yeah,
Their patrol bubbles do, but then you got some of them that they're out there in the heat. But at the end of the day, at the end of their 8 hour shift,
right,
they're
going
going
home,
home.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just it'd be no different than me working 8 hours on a road crew out.
Right,
Working on highways doing asphalt. That's tough labor work. But at the end of the day, hopefully I make enough money to kick my feet up and stay in the AC.
right. Speaking of kicking your feet up, you got a new piece of jewelry on.
I
You want to
do.
talk about it?
I mean, yeah, we can for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so man, I yeah, 2 weeks ago, Saturday, it'd be 2 weeks this Saturday, which was the day before Easter, I should mind you. Um, I got an ankle monitor put on, ankle bracelet, ankle monitor. Uh, and it's just kind of the inconvenience of it. They came almost like I said, I'd almost at that point I'd almost been out 2 months, and you guys just pop up on me after I've already had a job. I've got a license, a bank account, I've got like everything that I could possibly need right away as soon as I get home. Um, and then it's like you guys pop up and like 2 months later, after I've tried to start getting my life back, tell me, oh yeah, you got to have a ankle monitor for 30 days, which I get. It's 30 days. You know what I mean? And
But they wait 2 months to start the 30 days.
yeah, so most of the time, Phil, it's supposed to be immediately. Like from within the minute, like from within a week you get home, like your parole officer will come see you, and then they'll contact a technician, and a technician will be out there within 2 or 3 days and put the ankle monitor on you. And you're not supposed to go anywhere until they come out there. And so like no one told me anything before I got out. Like, and I even tried to find out through the prison, like, what's my stipulations? You know what I mean? Like, because they give you your plans to the majority of guys that are getting out, but some guys like me on such short notice, they don't get them. I got out so quick because of my GED, because of those 90 days that I was awarded for passing that kicked me out the door immediately. So I guess the state was kind of behind because so many other people are getting out at the same time. They felt like, they'll get to it when they get to it. So when I left prison, I'm like, okay, well, the lady, one of the counselors, the clinical service ladies, she was like, oh well, she'll give them to you when you get there, right? And then so I get out, and the first person that I meet wasn't even my actual parole officer. It was a correctional officer, like I told you guys, that worked at the prison that I was previously at. And so he didn't tell me. He basically kind of put it off on the other person, like, oh yeah, well, she'll tell you what you got to do whenever she sees you, right? instead of telling me right then, he's like, well, I don't really know what she got for you. So, that's that. So then I didn't see her for a couple weeks later, and you didn't tell me then even that I had them. And I don't feel like she told me that she was waiting on the instructions from the parole board. So, but needless to say, she ended up the last time I seen her, she come out and seen me and was like, yeah, she's like, I got bad news. She's like, you gotta do an ankle monitor for 30 days. I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, all right. And I wasn't really too upset about it because I needed some time to like sit down and kind of look back on the time that I'd been out, because you know, I hadn't really had the time to do that, to sit down and just kind of like zone in on me. I've been too worried about seeing people and doing things and doing this. And it's like, once you get in the groove of that, I feel like you kind of just like lose yourself, you know, where I had been humbled and focused in on myself. Like I just didn't know how to, and maybe I was overthinking it or overanalyzing it. And I just wasn't, I don't know. And that's, kind of where I thought maybe I needed to get some advice from somebody or see if I needed to speak with someone, because I was just like, caught off guard by the whole, you know, by it. It's just like I've been doing good for 2 months. I've been out. I've been trying to live my life, and then yet here you guys are like kind of spanking me and telling me you're not off yet. You're not going anywhere. You're still ours. Which you are technically. I'm still, even though I'm physically free in the world, it's
They're
still
just
like,
watching you.
yeah, yeah,
Huh.
close watch.
How was the technician who installed your monitor a nice person?
Yeah, he was actually cool. He was chill. He was an older dude, former correctional officer. You know what I mean? Like it was.
So is it like when you like order a modem from your internet service provider, like the guy pulls up in the van, and he's got his like logo on the side and just like comes in and explains like how it works.
More like when they show up and put a boot on your car.
Uh yeah. Did you hear us, Christian?
Yeah. That, hey Phil, that was the perfect comparison, dude. Like straight.
But
Uh,
I didn't know if he was just like kind of caught in the middle of it because he's just like he been it sounded like you said you got to get set up with the technician, and it sounded like he was just like some like state contracted person. He just comes out and like, you see your ankle, all right,
yeah,
type of
yeah.
thing.
That's pretty much how it was. He had to cut it out, like measure it, cut it out. And shit. It's just like you know.
And then he like locks it or something,
Yeah, yeah,
snaps, and he's like, "Don't fuck with this, or we're gonna come."
yeah. So look, and it's probably not a funny story, but so tonight, like I was behind. I have to be home by 6:30 with this thing on, and I pulled in the driveway at 6:30. Like I was dude. Like I was punching it. Just because I went and got my hair cut just right before that, and then before that I was at the gym, and then I was at work
I
before
mean, they
that.
know where you are. Why can't they just like,
See that I'm on my way home.
or just like see that you're at the gym? Like, are you not allowed to go grocery shopping or get a
Not after
like?
six.
Sometimes
I,
I
if
go
I
sorry.
leave this, hey, if I leave this house right now, Cole, they're gonna call me within.
Wow,
They're gonna call me probably within the 5 minutes. You know what I mean? What's going on?
Interesting.
Why is your ankle monitor going off? And then if I tell them like, oh, I just got lost, or something, like they're like, well, get back to your house, you dumbass,
so they like know your work hours, and you're like allowed to leave at like 7:30.
Yeah, I have from 6:30 to 6:30. I have a pass, I guess.
Okay, interesting. That's just interesting. I when I grew up, there was a guy across the street. I thought he was so cool, and he was. He was on house arrest, and he he yeah, he just couldn't leave though. He was not allowed to leave at all. Um, so yeah. that's all there is to that story. I was just saying that like I didn't know you could get a pass. I didn't know you could like leave and stuff. I thought
Oh,
you were like
you
Yeah.
thought he was
So,
so cool. You thought
oh,
he was so cool. He was on house arrest, and then you didn't realize that years later you would get to live that life during the pandemic.
right, yeah.
yeah, you totally experienced house arrest on pandemic for sure.
No, but on the real, I didn't realize that there was the concept of like being on house arrest, except you like get the time of day to go make a living. Like that seems like a just to acknowledge like that seems better than the situation he was in. I don't know what the exact details, of course, of his situation, but I always wondered like, well, if he's has to stay there, how the fuck is he supposed to make money or do anything if he like has to stay there? Like, is he just supposed to like work from home in 2000 fucking four? Like, I don't, like
Yeah, I wonder how that works.
so it just seemed like it was like, all right, better than prison, but you're still just stuck at the house, you know. I don't know what
Well,
you're
they
supposed
also
to.
have that. They also have that one. I remember there was like a cannabis guy who got convicted for like selling or having a large amount, and he got like where he essentially just sleeps at the jail for like a year. It's like he's like he's allowed to be out
Oh,
during the day
oh,
working.
Yeah,
sleeps there at
yeah,
night. Interesting.
yeah.
I didn't like I hadn't realized that was a thing.
Yeah, you like kind of, it's almost like a hotel. You like coming in, checking in,
Yeah.
check out in the morning. I wonder if they have
Yeah.
breakfast. I'm just joking.
The worst hotel.
Right, the worst hotel. Yeah.
Dude,
That's what I'd say though to
it's
everybody that I
look,
knew. I'd be like, all right,
I,
well, fuck, I gotta go check into the hotel. They're weird about if I check in late. So,
not to change the subject or nothing. I made some fucking chicken tenders in the air fryer last night for the first time, right?
mhm.
Because I guess I don't know what year again. Like, what year did they even pop up? I remember like when my
I faintly
family started.
remember. Yeah.
But in 2016 they didn't exist. But I don't think they did. They were probably they were inventing them, I guess. But I had these chicken tenders last night, dude. And they were fucking disgusting. I don't know what the fuck. Like I've had chicken that were better than those, dude. Like it just, I don't
So,
know.
so
The air
you
fryer,
weren't impressed?
I was not impressed with the air fryer, and
Was
that
it
it probably I'm
perhaps
not gonna.
the wings or the whatever you
Yeah,
ate?
I think it was the bag of chicken cheap bag of chicken, like probably Tyson or something from the frozer section at the grocery store, which is disgusting, anyways. But everyone's like, "Oh, if you put it in an air fryer, it'll be delicious. It'll be fire." Like it completely was not. I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
Thought I was getting Chick-fil-A here.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
I found there's a technique to it, depending on what you're making. Like you can't just like throw the fries in. What I'll do is like you just add like a little bit of olive oil, toss them in a bowl, kind of get them just
Yeah,
like lightly coated in some oil, but not too
yeah,
much, right? And then air
yeah.
fry them. Um,
Is this the start of your new podcast, Cooking with Cole?
yeah, exactly. I was about to
Dude,
say, you tune into Cooking with Cole.
I've got some badass recipes that you could make with some ramen noodles, dude.
Yeah, like they be like prison recipes. Is that what you're saying?
Oh,
Like,
100% they would be.
sorry, I
But dude,
didn't like I was just honestly asking because like I actually saw that. That was another one of the things that I saw was like how people would make like amazing meals in prison when I was talking
dude,
about people being on their cell phones and
Cole,
shit.
I would make you a ramen noodle stir fry that would like you would be like, dude, that shit is dank as fuck. I swear to God, you would prefer to eat it obviously over the fucking prison food.
Yeah, hell
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, and you can do all type of creative shit. You can crunch Flamin' Hot Cheetos up on it with some ranch dazzled across it. I mean, the presentation can be off the charts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
But
can't
it is like
are
I
you
mean that's what I
cooking in prison? Is that what you're saying? Are you able to cook?
yeah no like literally like I would rig my like I had a hot pot
Mhm.
that I would cook in, and it's a metal pan and a plastic piece, right? That with a lid on top.
Right.
Well, I can go in the bottom of it and take a copper wire that I can get like out of a cable cord or anything like that, and hook it around like basically the thermostat and block the thermostat out. So then I can boil the water. You know what I mean? So then you put like a cup of water in there, and boil that shit. Drop your peanut butter in there, get
Hmm.
that peanut butter aroma, and make it, watery and stuff. And then add some seasonings to it. You know what I mean? And then voila, throw that rice in, like a whole bag of rice in there with your cut up meats, like cut up. You can cut up like any type of meat that you would want in it. Like we get like sausage and stuff like that, like pepperoni.
But did you guys have
Uh,
like a fridge or like what do you?
no, so it's all just the rip and tear, room temperature chicken breast packs. Like you get the little rip and tear chicken breast packs. That's just like you know, and then like the summer dogs, like they're just regular like ones jerkies that you would buy at the Slim Jims at the store, and then you know how the Slim Jims just sit on the counter, like
Yeah,
just basically all like room temperature stuff, like chips,
sure.
stuff like
I
that.
would
So
think spam would be a hit in prison.
it is.
Yeah.
And if you do it, look, so if I take some butter and put it on that and don't put any water in that pot and I put that, you can fry stuff up on that skillet, on that pot. So I would just take the butter, throw the butter in the skillet and heat it up and just sizzle that thing on both sides and then make a little sandwich with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Well,
it's
once
little easy, little stuff like that. I mean, like, dude, burritos, nachos, like is like you would like we get Dorito, like not the name brand Dorito chips, but like probably like Cactus Annie's, like ones that you get at, like Save a Lots and stuff. But take a whole bag of Cactus Annie chips, throw you a bed of rice down on it. You know what I mean? Have like your chili packet, your chili, rip and tear chili, um, and have your meats, your summer sausages and pepperonis and stuff. You can jalapenos on there. You can melt the cheese down. Make your own like gourmet style nacho. Like right before I got out, dude, like I ate like with some of the guys that I was cool with, obviously, and they're like, it's like they were happy for me, so they all put food together and was like, your boy's getting out, woo,
oh yeah.
like that. That's the type of stuff we would be on in there, like celebration status, like any type of Super Bowl or anything, we're kicking it, we're cooking and
It's like
enjoying it.
it's like that scene in Goodfellas where they're making the spaghetti.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheer
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So funny story though, but yeah, I had an access to the kitchen in the prison before the one I just got out of, and I really had it made where I was, and not trying to like brag or nothing, but one, I was close to home. I was 30 minutes in my backyard, so the interstate's right there. So I'm like, my families and friends, whenever they're traveling, going wherever they're going, they're like honking the horn, like like just crazy stuff like that all the time. Because I'm literally like I was right there in my backyard, but I was in there and I had access to shit in the kitchen. Like they had the big like bags of spaghetti noodles that they would make for the entire prison. And obviously the dude that I knew that worked in there would get them and smuggle them to me, and I would make full blown spaghetti in the cell, with my own sauces. I would just use a chili, like the chili sauce, but it's not hard to make like your own pasta sauce either, though.
This is
But
awesome.
yeah,
I feel like
dude,
you should like start. I feel like you should start like a food truck based on your prison recipes, and then like
they
go to
feel they
like
beat
cannabis, go to like cannabis events and like sell it there.
that. That is genius, bro. That really is.
Yeah.
Because half the people there had probably been locked up before.
Yeah, just come up with the right like name and branding. I think
Yeah.
that could be a hit.
And then just like always, you could always make like a centerpiece of an event, like just, like just have a jar with somebody else's story on it. Like this dude is in prison right now for cannabis. Throw, this is how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
contact him, or this is how
yeah.
you whatever, or throw money in here to whatever. I don't know. Yeah. It's a cool idea.
There used to be a hot dog place in Chicago called Felony Frank's, And it was like, I think it was started by an ex-con, but like everyone that worked there had been a former like felon who had like gotten
Yeah.
out of prison. It was pretty cool.
Now, Phil, where are you originally from? If you don't mind me asking.
Like the northwest suburbs of Chicago, but I live like down on the south side now.
South Side.
This is the way
You're
south
not far.
side.
Way south.
Yeah. So apparently, felony Franks, I don't know the status today, but in 2017, they said they may have served its final misdemeanor wiener. They announced. But anyways, they apparently former ex-con, hired ex-cons, like you were just saying. But I just wanted to show the logo. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off though, Phil. You and Christian was asking you a question. So,
No, Phil. I met a lot of guys from Chicago, bro. For real, a lot of cool cats from Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of where I met them, you know what I mean. Ones that I still am in contact with today, but they it's different up there. It's a lot. It's totally like, and when I went up there, I hadn't been up to Chicago since I was like 13. So I went up there, last month when I first got out. I went up there March 1st. I was up there, and yeah. So, but it was just like I hadn't seen it since I was 13. So we're talking, almost 20 years later. And dude, it was like, I mean, obviously just getting out of prison, like anything's gonna be dope. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
the whole experience, the whole vibe, like just going up and down Lakeshore, Michigan Ave, you know what I mean? Like it was me and my friend. We had a great time. And this was actually a friend of mine that I did meet in prison. The friend that lives up there. He's on the north side though, but he's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
dude.
I imagine it'd be a little overstimulating.
It was like being on
Yeah.
on the trains and stuff, like, people walking by you and that close to you and stuff like that. It was just kind of like, you don't know, you just don't know, you know what I mean? But the restaurants, the food, dude, that was like the high. I mean, being around my friend that I hadn't been around in like 10, since I'd been locked up. But just him taking me and giving me the grand tour of Chicago. We were down on the South Loop. We didn't really go anywhere out south, but it was, it was.
Well,
definitely,
if you're just visiting the city, there's no reason to come to the far southwest side.
no.
Go to the more fun parts of town.
Yeah. I was definitely a tourist for sure. But I had talks of moving up there. Just to change it up. I like to move. I like to see different places. I like to see different things. And, I've lived quite a bit in the South. I covered the three main, Florida, Georgia, and Alabama growing up. And that's kind of where I got my southernness to me, but I always felt like a Southern Yankee, I always felt like a Northerner, but I have that Southern hospitality trait as well, and that's what I love about the South. Everybody's just so, yeah, come in and eat, or whatever. Just come, it's just Southern hospitality is just totally different than, everywhere's different. That's what I think I like, because you can go to the West Coast. You got West Coast vibes. You can go Florida. You got your beach vibes. Your ocean and stuff, and Cubans and stuff like that. But I'm waiting on Florida to legalize, dude. I might move to Florida. If they legalize, I might move down there.
I would imagine they will.
yeah. They got
Yeah,
a lot of money behind that. Yeah.
Well,
dude,
yeah.
can you imagine? Yeah. Maybe they just wanted to milk the medicinal money first,
What's that?
because that's the medicinal money.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like maybe they just they stall out and they just want to get the medicinal money before all the other private,
Well, yeah.
come.
Florida, as I understand it, is a very interesting market in that it's like Illinois with a very few low number of participants, but they do not have something that Illinois has, which is this idea of limiting the number of stores one entity can own so that they cannot like become too large in a market. In Florida, there's no license caps. If you have, you first of all, there's a requirement to be vertically integrated, but as soon as you are, you can open up as many retail locations as you can afford, you know.
Well, there's
Um,
also there's like a ton of dispensaries. Like last time I was
right.
there,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just everywhere. You can't
Hmm.
shop at them even if you're an out of state med patient. But yeah, like when they switch to rec, it'll be like just boatloads of money for those handful of companies that own those
Oh yeah.
shops there.
Yeah.
because they're just already there. They're already there in place waiting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
it's just like Florida. Yeah, I feel like you think going to Miami, sitting on the beach, smoking a joint, like it's what you do. Um,
Well, that will certainly probably still remain illegal.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
he wrong there.
Unfortunately.
Shame
Phil,
on you.
Phil, while we're on, where did we go get fried chicken at? I forgot, and I need to know. And this is a word that I can't
It's a
forget.
place in Chinatown called Banchan.
Oh,
It's actually a chain, but
China.
it's very good.
it was so good. So good.
Dude, that sounds just authentic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That the name of it and everything
Well, and I
sounds
had
like
never been to that area. You said Chinatown, right?
Hmm.
In I'd never been there, and it was just so cool to see, you
and we
know.
didn't.
It is a cool part of the city.
I think I'm gonna have to check because next I think I'm gonna be up there next month. And it's crazy because I didn't ask. I just jumped on the train and came up instead of driving. I don't really think I want to drive. It was so easy. Like my homie just literally pulled up on like Jackson Street
S-
downtown
So with
at a
that, do you have to
stoplight. And I just
sorry to cut you off, but do you have to like
uh,
holler at your parole officer and be like, "Yo, hitting up the chai."
so I did. Look, it's funny, dude. It's weird. It's almost like too weird. Like I'm on the train like 8 o'clock in the morning, and uh, the parole officer called me, and she was like, "Hey, are you around?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like,
On the train out of town.
I'm on the train on the way out of town. Exactly. She's like, "Oh, well, where are you going?" I'm like, I'm going to Chicago." And she's like, "Oh." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And I'm just waiting for it, the pause, you know. And she's like, "Well," she's like, "You just need to, for future references, if you go anywhere over 75 miles from your residence, you need to ask for permission." And I was like already in Champaign almost. Like I left at 7:30 in the morning. Like I had only been on the train not even an hour, but I was already a good ways down the road, you know. And so yeah, anywhere over 75 miles, she just asked that I run it by her, you know. So it's like I think pretty much like, hey, if I'm like, yo, I'm gonna go to Chicago for the weekend, you know, and see one of my friends and go to a Cubs game. I think she would be like, okay, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But it's just
That's cool.
basically you're just asking for permission, and which you're pretty much already granted. They
Right.
just want they just want you to ask, you know.
Yeah. Just to like have it on the flight pattern, so to say. Um,
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's cool. Well, um, that's basically what I wanted to talk about tonight. I was glad we were able to talk about so much more. Anything else though that like since the last time you came on or anything that, you wanted to specifically talk about or Phil, if you had anything, definitely jump
Yeah,
in.
I mean, I just, I've been focusing, just kind of getting everything sorted out. I do want to, what we had kind of talked about last time about, me getting up and going on some of my own things and just kind of building and branding that image. Um,
Yeah.
I have some ideas, uh, but I'm just being kind of, I guess, cautious right now with what I'm trying to do. Um, in the same breath, though, I'm just like, trying to just take it slow and make sure I do it the right way, because it's knowledge. It's just having all the knowledge, before you do something that you don't, what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Well, and also
And
just take some time to adjust to life.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
don't. There's no rush.
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, like, as far as, like that goes, like, I mean, I have, like, I've, you know, took the trips. I've been hanging out with, my girlfriend, me and her, which it got pretty, it's been great. Like, she's been perfect. Like, I couldn't have asked her to be more caring and just like realizing, like, and I understand, like, you know my presence being around, someone that I haven't been around in a long time, and me and her haven't been together long at all. Like, we just got together, like, kind of pretty much when I got out. And because it was easy for me to be alone while I was in, what I mean. Like, I see guys in there that go through it. You know what I mean? Like, man, who you with? Who you screwing? You screwing the neighbor? Like, just like bugging up, as any man would. That if their woman was out there and they're sitting there caged up, your mind will play tricks on you, you know. And it was just like easy for me to be single. I didn't have any kids, so like the harder things that you deal with, kind of two of the hard things that you deal with in there, I didn't have to deal with, you know. But I still had my family that was devastated of the matter, and no matter what, I'll never be able to give them those 7.5 years back, you know. And all I can do now, Cole and Phil, is like use my experience to benefit my family and my nephews and close friends, or anyone for that matter, that needs that kind of help. Like, what I'm saying? Like, if you want to stay out of that direction and not, associate with those kind of people that could put you in a position where you end up doing almost a decade in prison, like, I'm your guy, call me. Like, I can help you out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like one of those deals where, like, how do I open up a platform that can kind of, and this is it, obviously, this is the internet, social media was huge then when I went away, and it's even like, God, I mean, it's ridiculously big now. So, it's like every day, so I'm starting to learn a lot, as I've since I've been out and stuff. So I just want to kind of just keep learning, and that's all I can do, really. And just be there for people that struggle or go through things, that want to, you know, not veer down those dark paths. Cause I mean, they're there, they're waiting on you. You know what I mean? Every day, I could call one up right now and be like, hey, I'm in need right now. I'm hurting, man. But I wouldn't ever put myself in that position again, just off of what I put my family through. And it was hard for them. Like, I don't, to have your mom have a AR-15 pointed in her direction coming out of her house because I attracted that to her property, and like never realizing like my actions and what I do could do that, to have her hold up in an interrogation room being drilled about 1,000 things that she knows absolutely nothing about. It definitely gets deeper, like as far as how much I open up and share. Um, but it's just something that I think I want to put out there and, let people know, that you don't have to follow anybody's lead. You can follow your own path. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm choosing to do, from here on out. Since and I started doing it, I learned how to do it better while I was in there because I chose that I wasn't going to go in any other direction. And just here recently, and this is just kind of give you guys an update on like recently I kind of had like a slip, I guess, in my mind where I felt like I was going in the same direction at the same time. Or like you're going in the two different opposite directions, I should say. I said that wrong. I'm stoned. But like it just feels like, you know what I mean? Like you don't know up from down, I guess I should say. Like you're in the ocean and you don't know which way's up, and you don't know which way's down. And I got out and I just started like, and that was a couple weeks ago, and I had a little breakdown, and I actually went to a service that, even though my name's Christian, I am a believer, in Christ and stuff like that. But I put that off for a long time. I didn't go to prison and find jailhouse hope or anything like that. Like I've always had it, even long before, you know what I mean? I always believed in my God, you know what I'm saying? But um, I kind of drifted away from it in prison because in prison it's more of a meet and greet, and the type of people that go to these to these services, they're not there for, any type of enlightenment or any type of uplifting. They're just there to go see whoever's there. And most of the time, it's the child molesters are there, and the other, which homosexuals go there just to talk and fraternize, stuff like that, which, is their,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, that's kind of what I've heard is that it's like
It's watered.
it's like
It's watered
yeah, it's
down.
the only place you can go to like chill. So like yeah, like especially,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's watered. It's just so I didn't really partake. And now, don't get me wrong. I read, somewhat of my Bible at my bunk in my cells and stuff like that. Because it's more meditating and peaceful that way than it is to try to go to the services. So, but
Yeah.
I didn't. So, me, the reason I say all that to say this is because, a couple weeks ago I was like, I need something. Like there's a void that I'm not feeling. And that, I felt like that was it, especially, and then it was crazy because then on Saturday, I got that, right before Easter. And, I was just like, man, it's like, I don't know if the universe is fucking with me or what, like, what I mean? For all of a sudden now I get this ankle monitor, but I still went to church the next day. I went to church with an ankle monitor on, and I wasn't embarrassed or nothing like that. Like my pastor was a man that I've known for a long time that coached me in football and stuff like that. And, so I didn't have a problem being there, but it was just, it felt that that's what I needed. When I felt like I said I was in up, didn't know up from down. Part of that was because of, I needed that spiritual cleansing. It's like you got all that negative that you've just harbored for so long. It's just like you need to let it out. You need to burn the sage or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think everything you're talking about is just like the idea that, I mean, when you get out of something like being in prison for 7, 8 years, like you got to find a new purpose for your life, You got
yeah,
to like,
Yeah.
you got to give yourself a, got to
Humanity.
give your, you got to give yourself a direction.
exactly. And then at first, like I came home and had quite a few opportunities. As far as like, and one of the biggest reasons that I had it was my mother has been a big advocate for me and does a lot of fighting for the cannabis clemency. She lives up to her name, which is Cannabis Matriarch, on Instagram, if you guys don't already follow her. But she, like, her friends and everything were like, look, if he needs any work, let him know we got him. And I'll be honest, like, the one of the first persons that asked her if he needs any work was a former correctional officer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I swear, like, I can't make it up. Like, it just amazes me. People that know my mom know me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just,
Well, and
They
someone like that would know, like, having a job is pretty important to like
that
getting back in the world and the flow of things.
yeah, and I mean I went my own route. Like I'm in the carpentry work right now. I've been doing the drywall and stuff like that, and it's been good doing it. It's not obviously my forever job. I trimmed trees for a year or two out in Montana, and I did fall in love with it. I fell in love with Montana, period. But trimming trees actually was a career path that I had started to choose. Um, around the power trimming around the power lines. Obviously, I should clear that. Not trimming buds or plants or anything like.
Yeah.
Trimming actual trees. Like big ass trees too, but climbing them and everything. But yeah, but no, but my ultimate dream probably is still to, like call it, my ignorance being involved in the shit that I was involved in, um, you know, taught me a lot. It just basically because my dream though, back to my dream, my dream is to cultivate, and the reason I say cultivate someday on a legit legal scale, um, hopefully someday with the pleasure of doing it with my best friends who, want to get into the business also. Um, but it's like I went, I paid the ultimate price, which was years of my life, for something that I cared very, very dearly about, that I still wake up and do at sometimes 5:30, 6:30, 7:30 in the morning. It's like I get up and go to work, I need to, get my little session in before I go. And then me and my guys will be sitting on the lunch break, having another session, and it's, if you got your pin on you, it's sessions all day, you know, while you're hanging, we're getting high,
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. It's
we're,
the fucking future.
we're hanging drywall and getting high. So if we come hang your drywall and it looks a little crooked, it probably is. And it's probably because we were stoned when we put it up.
No, or it's perfect, just because, but it's funny. I had
That's the better.
there you go. Yeah. The air condition, I, my, was just making sure all my air conditioning is working, because there's a little bit of a heat wave coming through Illinois and I grow at home and, yeah, you just can't have those high temperatures. And so,
Yeah.
uh, the guy came by today and, was smoking a bowl and it smells in my house anyways, because my plants are in flower. And, yeah, he was just like, "You grow at home?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Me too, man. It smells good in here." And I was like, "Thank you. Thank you, man." But, I'd love to. Obviously, this is probably a year off, but I'd love to have you as a speaker at Hash Wednesday when I bring it up when I bring it back. I don't know if you're familiar with what it is, but I can tell you sometime.
Yeah.
If folks want to read about it, just go to colememo.com/history. There's a section on Hash Wednesday, a photo archive that I created, which includes newspapers, photos, and including people that I interviewed. So you can see the interviews that I conducted with people that were at Hash Wednesday. It was a protest, just real quick, back in the day, where you just smoked weed out in the public in Illinois. And they just did it openly. And it's crazy that it doesn't go on today because, in fact, that's actually a crime and that's bullshit. So that's why it should be brought back, but it also should be brought back to talk about things like you just brought up, like you'd like to cultivate. Well, guess what? You can't right now.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's a problem.
Yeah.
And not only for your home cultivation, which is how you maybe gain your footing and get comfortable with the plant, but if you'd like to take it a step up and get into like the commercial side of it, you should have a pathway for that, but you don't. Um, and they're not going to give that to you unless you have the
Well,
right connections.
here's 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 what what I've done in my research.
In Illinois, I should say. Sorry, I don't mean to just say you don't. You could go to another
Well,
state and do that, maybe.
I mean, from what I've understood is that felons in Illinois can have a license
Oh
to
yeah,
cult.
you could maybe
They
qualify
they
for social equity.
I've the social equity because I would gain social equity.
Yeah.
And it's funny, what made you bring that up? How did you?
I mean, you were just saying that you wanted to get into the cultivation thing, and you just made me think like you'd be a great speaker if because you need to get a lot of speakers to talk a lot about a lot of different issues, and you are
Yeah.
somebody who's been put through, the system. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's why. Is that what you meant? Why
Yeah.
about that particular topic?
Well, yeah, that's what's crazy because a person, one of the people out of Last Person Project had actually informed me about that and told me that I would be more applicable for the application process than someone who had no background in the
Yeah.
cannabis. And it confused me. It kind of like shocked me. I'm like, are you sure? Like, but he had looked into seeing if Illinois did have those social equity programs, and he come back to me with, and I'm pretty sure he said they did. And but see, the thing about it was Illinois had already been doing it, a couple of years, and I looked into Missouri's rules and regulations, and looked into what the cost was, and for the dispensary, it's around $1 million. For the cultivation, it's about $3 million. Well, and that's for Illinois too.
Just
So
for the
Illinois,
license, right?
that's for the whole setup
Yeah.
for basically your building, everything
Oh,
you would
yeah.
lights, everything, license, all of it. I went to a consultant and was talking to someone who sets them up. You know what I mean? Because of the investor that I had that was interested in getting into it. Because when I started throwing the numbers, and it's not for me, it's not about the numbers. It's about doing what I like doing. The creative side of it, I think it's an art. And I think I want to give it that look to it. Like that it's not just I mean, it's a plant. It's definitely a plant, but it's not just a plant.
Yeah. Well,
So and then on top of that, if I ever and when I do become successful, um, I will use some of the stuff like as far as profits or anything like that to help some of like obviously the incarcerated.
sure.
Like I mean I wouldn't mind starting a nonprofit, an idea that I had, was um was to um I was my bad. I'm drawing a blank.
That's okay.
Oh, Christian cannabis clemency.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's kind of like somewhere like I had like thought like if I created that, then it might give it that religious view on it. And it's not that it's that at all. It wouldn't be a religious thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the fact that it's me and that I'm the person that went through it. But for the cause would be to generate a nonprofit for something like that would help those guys out, to help them get out of prison, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like basically what I'm saying is if I could get something like that started up to where I feel like I'm going and helping these guys get out of prison by going to the governors and having these meetings and talking with these lawyers or whoever I need to be talking to, then I think that's something I could find myself doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I bet you, yeah, well, what we need to do before we post this podcast is figure out if Christian cannabis clemency is taken yet. We're gonna fucking take that shit. And we're gonna set it up. But anyways,
Was that a good idea, Cole, or
I
no?
like it only because it is your real name, but then you might, because of search engine optimization, you might confuse some Christians that also believe in cannabis clemency, and they'll be like, yeah, and then they might figure out that you're still a cool dude and be like, and that you are a Christian. not
But
only
then
in
you got
name but in spirit.
then you got your Christians that aren't pro marijuana and probably wouldn't,
Right, right. But
Which,
I'm saying if it's Christian cannabis clemency, you might get that like little subsect, like the Venn diagram, the middle part, the ones that are
yeah,
cool,
And I think
cool
there's
with
just
the,
as many stoners at church as there are in the rest of the world.
dude, yeah. And
yeah,
not one, you can't tell me you'd find one person there that you'd probably find one that'd be like, oh yeah, that little pothead deserves to rot in hell. You know what I mean? But it's like, but realistically, like they would be like, he's locked up for weed. No, get him out. You know what I mean? Like for the most part.
yeah. I was raised Christian. I wouldn't consider myself, that anymore. I have no issues with it. All my family is. I just personally, But anyways, the point being, still one of my favorite things to say around Easter, especially when it falls on 420, is blaze it and praise it, um, because it just is awesome. So,
You know it.
anyways, well,
That was growing up. The reason I said that was because growing up, that was like the friend group I started smoking weed with was like all the kids I hung out at church with and like youth group. So it was like my parents had this idea that I was leaving the house like 3 nights a week to go to church and this totally like good thing. But really, I'm just like that was just my reason to get out of the house on like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday to go smoke weed with my friends.
Dude, I love it. Hell
That's
yeah.
awesome, honestly.
But
That's really
you do
cool.
things like get high, go there and help and feed the homeless.
Right. That's like really cool.
I don't want to. I don't want to. It's funny because I got kicked out of 8th grade in school, right, for smoking weed across the street at the church, and
He would
I got
want you to do that.
I came back on to school premises stoned and got caught, and they basically suspended me from school because of that. But the church was right across. You should have had a church over there for one. Right by a school. That's just forbidden. Like, what are you trying to know?
Yeah.
But
It's
you
the
got
perfect place to smoke weed. Exactly.
yeah.
Why would you have a church right there?
Well, no, and that is definitely the reason. And then two, you got it right across the street from a school where you got pedophile pastors that are trying to pick up their little prey. Like no, but I mean, I'm just talking shit. But
No, we didn't have a pedophile pastor, but there was a car wash near our high school that all the kids would go smoke cigarettes at, and there was this one dude that like kind of ran the car wash, and he would get a little friendly with the girls. Everybody was a little weirded about him. He
yeah,
was not cool, unlike the guy that I was talking about earlier that was on house arrest. That guy was not cool.
he
Um,
said that. It's not cool.
yeah. Anyways, we've been going for a while, and this is by no means the last time we'll chat, but I just wanted to thank you again for chatting with me tonight, and I hope that, it's only 30 days and they don't surprise you and say, "Oh, by the way, you have to wear a earring for the next, 60 days."
For real.
That you can
No,
be out till 8.
I really wasn't mad about it. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right, right. Yeah.
Cry over spilled milk.
It was just crazy to see it, man. When I saw the picture, I was like, what the fuck happened? I didn't know. I got a little worried. So
Everybody, there was a few people that definitely hit me up. Was like, dude, you straight? Like, what the fuck did you do? Did you get in trouble? Was it because you went to Chicago? I'm like, no. I'm like, they're just they're super backed up. Like there is so many people that are getting out in Illinois, and hopefully they stay out. You know what I mean? Because that's really the bigger picture, man. Because at the end of the day, like we're in there going through it. You know what I mean? Like we're ready to, and really, all you got is kind of each other in there to lean on. Because when you got something to talk about, you only got one other. Like if you're in a cell, you got one other person that's going to listen. You know what I mean? And hopefully you and him are cool in there. But no, I appreciate it, man. For real. And I appreciate your support and everything too, and just that being interested in hearing about it, man. I've been glad to talk about it.
it's fascinating.
Um,
Like
I
to
want
hear
to.
how the system works.
It is. There's definitely more, and I'll start writing stuff down. I'm not super organized right off the bat. Like I'm a procrastinator, Cole. So I'm trying to, you know, just stay focused at what's at hand right now. And so I will, yeah, but I'll definitely start like, picking up on some good stuff like, that I feel like we could get covered on and, go from there.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. On like Phillips said earlier, like take it one day, take it easy, dude. You just went through some shit, bro.
Oh man.
That you
Yeah.
really shouldn't have, you shouldn't have to. It's super, super crazy. Um,
I would have, I would have,
bro, I'm
ex-
about to buy ChristianCannabisClemency.com. And I say buy, I get it free for the first year. It's
holy,
yours. It's yours whenever you want it.
no shit.
Yeah, and I'll fucking pay for it. I don't give a shit. I'll pay for it. So it's pretty, if you want, and if you don't, then we just cancel
Hell,
it and it's free.
yeah.
No
That's
no
something
pressure.
that I'm for sure wanting to talk to you more about that. So
Yeah.
even if it's just, I'll shoot you, a message or something on,
It'll be there if you need it, but again, no pressure. Just, we'll take it one day at a time. And if you want to do it and you've got some ideas, you want to post things or do your own thing,
yeah.
it'll be there
'Cause
for you, you know?
I could build a blueprint for that and kind of build around it. Like I was kind of telling you.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly. So
well, Phil, you've been awesome too, dude. I don't want to, exclude you out. I appreciate you, man. And for real, it's been cool. And getting to know you guys has been great too. A little bit. That's why I know you said Cole, you're somewhere central, right?
yeah, yeah, I was actually gonna say that when you're back in Champagne, hit me up, dude. Holler at me. Give you some joints
Bet
or something.
you know that we have coffee joints, whatever.
Yeah. So
Coffee and joints together.
yeah.
Exactly. That's the best. But yeah, dude, I went. Hey, it's crazy. So when I went through Champagne, there was guys getting on the fucking train in their fucking like just got out uniform, like literally like had the tan, like it's basically like a jumpsuit. It's like a sweatsuit, but you can tell there's no design to it at all. You can tell it's. I mean,
It's
I
not
guess
Kanye's new line.
it's not Kanye. I'm surprised, man. You just gave me another idea.
There you go.
I gotta hold that one.
Yeah.
A prison line. We're gonna come out with a prison line called clothing.
That
Fuck
honestly
Yeah,
would
Kanye.
you
be
can
kind of
you can
cool,
you can use the PJ's abbreviation, but it stands for prison jammies.
Yeah.
Hey, that's genius. Fuck Kanye West. No, I'm just.
Exactly.
Um, but
No,
yeah,
I second that. But anyways, well, it's been a pleasure again speaking with you. And folks, I hope you found as much value in this conversation as I did. Definitely, if you haven't checked out the first one, and if you've listened this far, go back and check out coldmemo.com/is it legal for the first conversation we had. We got much deeper into like the time aspect of it, what it was like on a day to day in there. And I'm sure we'll talk about more of that and so much more in the future. We've got Christian's cooking show coming up in the future. I'm joking. So Philip and Christian, thank you so much for your time tonight. And I'm sure we'll be back on the Cole Memo in the future, folks. We'll see you on the next episode.
sounds good. Take it easy.